Lesson 11, Harvesting the Honey. In our area, you can harvest your honey usually in mid to late August. Once again, this depends upon the temperature. You want it nice and warm so that the honey flows readily and easily. And it's a good time. It's when there's still resources available for the bees to be bringing honey in or nectar into their hive, but also things are starting to shut down. As has been important all along, you inspect your hives. This is sort of the time, too, to start getting ready for fall and winter preparation for your hives, so you can be doing two things at once. You can check your bottom two hive bodies, remember the space that you're giving over to your bees. Put the hive body with the most brood on the bottom, if it isn't already. The second hive body will have more honey storage space than the bottom hive body, and this is how you'd like to leave them for the winter. You make sure that the queen is not in one of your honey supers, one of the supers that you're hoping to take honey for yourself. The hives in the picture on the bottom have a queen excluder separating the hive bodies from the supers to help ensure that the queen is not up in the area that you're hoping to use for extracting honey. The frames that are ready for harvest are going to be mostly full of capped honey. The bees will evaporate out the extra moisture that is in the nectar that they bring in, and only when it's fully ripened will they cap it. And once the honey is capped, it will store forever, and it is ready for harvesting. You want to brush off as many of the bees from the frame as possible so that you can, one, see it better, and two, so that when you collect the frame to take up to your place that you're going to be extracting, you're not taking along too many bees at the same time. Frames that are ready for harvest that you're deciding to take from the hive should be placed either in another empty super or in a container of some sort with a lid so that you can keep the bees away from those frames after you've used the brush to get them off. Remove the container holding your harvest frames to a location away from your hives. Your bees will find them no matter where you go. And you want it in an area that's easy for you to work in. That can be a patio or a deck. Use your judgment. Ensure that as many bees as possible are off of those frames. The extracting of the honey requires an extractor, which is a unit that you will put your frames into and spin it. The honey comes out of the combs by using centrifugal force. You need to decide where you'll do your extraction. You can do it yourself, or you can take it to someone who will do it for you. And in the resources list, we have several places that do provide extracting services. If you're going to do it yourself, you do need to have an extractor. You need to place the frame somewhere that will be easy to clean up afterwards and on a surface that can catch honey drips, because you'll be cutting the caps off of each one of the cells. You can use a knife that has been warmed so that it cuts through the caps easily and quickly, and you are very careful not to cut too deeply into the comb. You want to just remove the caps as much as possible. For those that are on the edges, use a fork or something a little bit sharp to scrape open any capping that was missed by the knife. You place your frames vertically into the extractor, being sure to position them correctly following the manufacturer's directions. Place the lid on the extractor, and if it's a manual, have fun spinning. It will take a while, and it can be either lots of fun or you can think of it as very good exercise. You may want to mount the extractor on a stand so the height is comfortable for you to do the spinning. Remember, it will take a while to get all the honey out of each frame, and depending upon how many frames your extractor holds, and then you do have to reverse the frames in the extractor and spin the other side as well. So this is a labor of love. Be sure that the extractor is on a very flat surface and that the surface can be cleaned easily. No matter how hard you try, the process of extracting your honey is messy. When the extractor reaches the full point, open the bottom drain and fill containers with the honey that you've extracted. You probably will be putting the honey into a final container, and you can do this after you've screened the honey to remove small pieces of debris like wax, pollen, or bee parts. If you put it into a container and keep it relatively warm, the wax will float to the top and is easily removed. The debris, such as bee parts, like pieces of leg, will settle to the bottom. So the pure honey itself will be in the middle, easy to separate from the two parts that you may not wish to keep in your permanent container. So some of the work is done for you if you just give it a little time and let it set. There are a couple of types of honey harvesting, and it depends upon how you like your honey. We just talked about extracted honey, and it's the most common, but comb honey is also popular. These particular pictures show comb honey that has been taken out of a top bar hive, just for ease of showing you how to do comb honey. They have no artificial foundation in them when they're from a top bar hive, because the bees themselves do that foundation that we talked about earlier for the Langstroth hives. So the only thing that you have that you're eating or using is all produced by the bee themselves. So the wax is extremely thin and fine and definitely edible. You select the frame for harvesting based on the same criteria as your extracted honey, making sure that most of the cells are capped. You cut the comb off of the frame and cut the comb then into the size of container that you'll be using to store it in. Food storage boxes, either plastic or glass with tight-fitting lids, work very, very well. Or in this case, if you really can't wait, at this point it is ready to eat. So in summary, you need to inspect your hive. This is the first step in preparation for fall, in preparation for having a successful overwintering experience for your hive. And so you adjust your hive bodies accordingly. You go ahead and take out of your supers any of the frames that have fully capped honey in them, meaning that it's ready for harvest. And then depending upon what kind of honey frames that you have, either for extraction or perhaps for comb honey, you use the appropriate technique to harvest your honey. There are extraction services available. Please check the resource list for local suppliers that may assist with that. Or if you do it yourself, it's certainly very doable. You need an extractor. It takes a little bit of time. There can be a little bit of mess, but it certainly is the last step in a very successful year with your beehive and having honey at the end of that year for you to enjoy.